Welcome to This Is BPCC. My name is Kenisha Garmelia, and this is my guest, also my teacher, Mr. Eric Tuckson.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm fine. So, Mr. Eric, what classes do you teach here at BPCC?
Presently, this being the fall 2021 semester, I teach two classes. I teach the COM 102 class, which is the class we're currently in, and then COM 201, which is post-production. So this one is live video production, and the other one is post-production.
Okay, so I'm in live production. I should have took post first, huh?
No.
Oh, I can take it either one?
Yeah, it's not a, you know, this class, to the best of my knowledge, does not have a prerequisite. Post-production does. Post-production, because editing is a major component of that class, you need to have taken a video editing class prior to that.
Okay. So in video post-production, what all does that cover?
Oh God, post-production as a general term covers everything that happens after the camera is finished rolling. So if you think of a movie or a television show of any kind, it could be a reality show even. The moment principal photography has finished, that's the moment when they've sent the crew home and they've sent the cast home and everything's finished. The footage for the film, the audio for the film, and everything goes to an editorial department that will then begin the process of post-production. Now, most cases during the production of an actual film or television show, post is actually happening at that time. Like the actual material is being sent to an editorial department and there are people that are making creative choices while the principal shooting is happening. And a lot of times this is done just to expedite, speed up the process of the post. If a film has anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks of shooting, post is still, a director himself, he or she, has so much time behind that for what they call the director's cut. That is actually the assembly of the film as it was dictated by the script. Okay. It's just the opportunity for them to kind of see the film as it is in its entirety, and then can make editorial choices from there. That's the standard way it's done, but part of the process of post not only is the editing of the film, but it's visual effects in a film. Visual effects everyone calls CGI or whatever the layman term would be, and that's essentially a CGI effect could be anything from removing a ladder that was shot by accident to fixing something to replacing a green screen with another background or whatever it may be. But the post-production process has kind of a schedule, and the schedule is dictated in advance of the shooting schedule, because basically what you're trying to determine is when is the finished product going to be released into the world. And depending on what it is and the deal is made, sometimes that date is kind of sketchy in terms of we just don't know yet because deals are still in process. I've worked on projects before where release date was a question, but we still acted under the impression or under the schedule that it was going to be done by a certain time. And then that's just the way that goes. So to answer your question, post is everything from editing to visual effects, sound work, and coloring, and all that sort of stuff. And then ultimately, distribution.
So everything before video processing, right?
More or less, but I mean everything now, I mean if you want to go back, you know, film as it was when it was actually film, not many, there are still a handful of directors in Hollywood that like to shoot on film, but not many anymore. It's expensive. Film is a physical medium. You have to actually chemically process it to get the finished image. Any film set that you go to that is shooting film has a video tap out of the camera that's running to what they call Video Village, so you can actually see the film as the camera sees it. But you still, and you end up with a digital file at the end of the day that you can still go back and cut with. And that's essentially what you're editing your film with. When it comes down to the end where you do what's called a film out, where essentially you take a list of cuts made by the editing department and you give that to the cutting house, and that's the film that they then cut and release to the world. It's changed a lot. Nowadays, obviously, everything has been digital for quite a long time, and so you can, film is not even a factor. Cost is your cost is alleviated in that way. But, you know, it's still a timely and expensive process.
So how long have you been a professor here at BPCC?
Oh, this is it's going to scare some people. This is my first semester back. No, actually, it's true. I worked at this school and in this department for 10 years. I actually graduated from this program in 1998. as a student. I was a non-traditional student. That is to say, I came back. I didn't go directly from high school into this. So I had gone out and I'd worked in retail. I was a grocery store assistant manager. I worked in a video store. Yes, yeah, they had video stores. Bless you. And back then, it was just about getting a job and trying to figure out what to do with your life. And I reached a point where I just didn't know. I was done. Retail sucked and I hated it, and I could have stuck with it. I had a definite path. I could have become a store manager. They wanted to send me to a place and do all that, and I said no, going back to school. So I came to BPCC at like 24, 25 years old, and I had a better appreciation for it because I was growing up by then, and I appreciated the fact that I'm in class and I need to take this seriously. So I did one semester and managed to earn a scholarship, and scholarshiped my way through the rest of my education, and then after I graduated, I had already been working in news production at that time, so I was directing newscasts at KSLA, and then I heard from someone who was a staff member at the college that I knew as a student, reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to come work here?" And I was like, "Doing what?" And they were like, "Well, would you like to come and we have a need and da 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 da." So they basically created a position for me. I came in and I worked for 10 years. And this was back initially when the campus was all these different buildings. So it used to be, BPCC used to consist of a main campus on Airline Drive, and then a mile or so north of that or south of that, you had the South Campus, which is where we were with the theater department. And so long story short, by the time we had moved into this building where we are here, I had started teaching. So I was teaching adjunct part-time in and above my regular staff position here. And I taught electronic field production, I taught intro to communications, and I taught media law. Yeah, media law. And it was really just me kind of tired of being a staff member and just trying to expand and to do something else. I'd never taught. I thought, I can do that. And so I was going about my merry way doing other things, and then latter part of the summer this year, Emily, who I mentioned earlier, reached out to me. I've known Emily for many, many years, worked with her at the film studio, and she said, "Hey, we need someone to come teach. Would you be interested in trying out?" or applying rather. And I said, maybe. And it's been a really good fit for me, honestly, it has been. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, I understand that because I did not come into college right after high school either, because I was like, I don't want to do school.
It's not, honestly, it's not for everybody. I've done it to my own kids. I've tried to send my own kids to college right after high school, and it was a mistake because I realized really quickly that he knew better than I did. I just thought, you need to go out and get that done because you need that degree, because one day, and now he's doing something that doesn't require the degree, and he's doing well. So it's like, I'll shut up now.
Yeah, because I went into retail myself, but I was like, ooh, I don't like people telling me what to do and yelling at me. I was like, I'm going back to school.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more information from you, Mr. Eric.
All right.
All right.
Dominionaire, hey. Communication media, hands-on. Yeah, know we hands-on, give you all the tools you need to succeed. Only at BPCC. Communication media, hands-on. Yeah, you know we hands-on, giving you all the tools you need to succeed. Only at BPCC. Broadcasting, TV production, wanna be on television, we can get you started. Every day's a photo shoot, got fine art photography, know the film up, also making documentaries. Graphic designers, real fun, Photoshop, illustrators, characters come alive with computer animation. We got sound recorded with studio production without the training. How could I record this greatness? Lights, camera, action, come alive and be creative. Business of music, maybe you could be my next agent. Media for ministry, pitches where you wanna be, looking for all the majors that breed creativity. Communication media ain't for the wannabes. Yeah, it's only for the gonna-bees. Got cool professors, master your craft with ease. Cool professors, master your craft with ease.
Welcome back to This is BPCC. If you're just now joining us, my name is Kenisha Gamilia, and this is my guest, Mr. Eric Tuckson. So we talked about you and everything that you do here, but I would like to jump to your Olympus work. I heard that you had worked with Olympus with Has Fallen. Sorry.
Olympus Has Fallen.
Yes.
Is that a movie? I think it's a movie. I'm
It
not
better
sure.
be a movie. Did you work with it?
No, I'm just messing. Yeah, no, that was one of the many films I worked on. So when I left BPCC in 2009, I went to go work for a VFX studio called Worldwide Effects, and they were located in Shreveport. And we were the in-house visual effects vendor for all Millennium films that were produced in Louisiana. So that means, because back then, it's still the case now, but back then, film credits were the main vehicle for getting a film to shoot in a particular state. And Louisiana had one of the best film tax incentives going. So many studios just camped out in the state and just produced anything and everything they could. And case in point, here's a movie that takes place in Washington, D.C., and they shot it here in Shreveport, in Louisiana, which makes no sense. But because visual effects are so obtainable, relatively speaking, they were able to build a large exterior, which is near the Berkshire Arena in Bossier. Of course, it's not there anymore. But they built that there for the White House, and then everything else, they shot some stuff in downtown Shreveport that substituted for DC, and then everything else was visual effects, all of it, as far as the world outside of that real space. So yeah, I worked on that show. It was one of the first shows that I worked on as a supervisor, and all that basically means was, in the studio up to that point, I was a media or a visual effects editor. So an editor in that pipeline, their job is to basically sit there with a computer that has the film in sequence form, and the sequences basically mean if you've got a scene in the movie, which you don't have footage to show of this, but there was a moment in the movie when there is a C-130 that's attacking DC, and the bad guys are about to topple the Washington Monument. Well, everything that had a visual effect is put in a sequence for a particular part of the movie, and that lives in the editing system. And it was an avid media composer at the time. And so basically you've got shots. Each individual thing that happens is a shot. And each shot it's an iterative process, which basically means there's versioning. So you start with basic storyboards or basic animatics, if you will. That's not the technical term for it, but basically like a rough CG version of what a thing's supposed to look like. And as you get down to the end, you might be up to version 35, but by the time you get to the end, that's like the version that goes in the film. So the visual effects editor's job is to sit there and basically have a timeline in your editing system that has every single version in it from inception to delivery. So you can go back and reference everything that you need in context with the scene. My sequences in the film were primarily they were just like blue screen compositing shots and muzzle flashes and blood hits. For whatever reason, and I don't understand the thinking here, but in light of what happened to Alec Baldwin on a movie set here recently, I can understand. Safety is a factor, and you have movies where people are running around with machine guns and shooting at each other, and usually in tight confined spaces, and they do it very quickly because time is an issue, and we've got to get through this really quickly. And so they had some sets built at the studio there that were the interiors of the White House, and a bunker that they had built. That was supposed to be like the president's secret bunker underground. And you had people running through smoke-filled spaces, shooting and all that sort of stuff, and squibs going off and whatnot, but most of the guns were fake. So there wasn't even a blank being shot. It was just people, like kids, pointing guns at each other, going bang, 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 right? And what we would do is two things. We would have to actually add a muzzle flash, so a flash that would come out of the barrel of the gun. That has to be tracked and put in position with the barrel so it looks right. You're in a dark space, you have to have interactive lighting because the flash creates light. So now you have to fake lighting on every surface in the room. And that's hard to do when you got smoke on top of it, right? So that's challenging. And then you've got blood. If a person gets hit with blood. Oh, by the way, the gun is shooting shells out the side of the ejection port. That has to be added to. Guns have mechanical mechanisms. Pistols actually have slides that move back, shells that come out. That has to be animated. They go into the rubber gun and go, Well, unless you fired a gun, you don't know how the recoil feels. And some people kind of just overact it. But they cut these things so quick. I mean, a shot of a guy shooting a machine gun might be 12 frames. 12 frames is less than half a second.
Wow.
That's short. But they would you would slave over those 12 frames as if it was the movie, as if every bit of the movie mattered. That was what it was about, and it's not. But these things, so all the blue screen shots basically were replacing what was in there with something that wasn't shot on the day, because they didn't have the element ready. They didn't know what it was going to be, and because the story was fluid. The story, that particular story was about a clock. It was about the bad guy trying to hack into the system that was going to give him complete control over nuclear capability, and he was going to launch an attack against whoever. And so there was a clock, and the president's Secret Service guy was going to go save the day. So every monitor in the movie had to have something relevant to the story point. And that story point would change from time to time in the edit, depending on how the edit evolved. So the clock might read 50 minutes one day, and a few weeks from now it might read 45 because the edit's been changed. And so the element has to change, and this sort of stuff. So that was what I did on that show. It wasn't as hands-on and interesting as other stuff I've done, but it was one of the first larger shows, especially because it was shot here, and which was kind of cool. You actually walk to the set and see the stuff being done, as opposed to getting the footage months after. So that was pretty neat.
So have you ever seen the movie?
Olympus Has Fallen? It's terrible. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have seen it. I'm pretty sure I've seen it once. If you've ever talked to anybody that's ever done work like this, ever, either in front of the camera or behind the camera, a lot of people don't watch their stuff. And I'm not like really like, oh, you can't watch it. I have such a terrible performance. I'm not in front of the camera. I mean, I remember all the headache and pain it was to get something to the finish line. There are movies I've worked on I've never seen, because I saw enough of it during the process that I don't need to see it. And it's always kind of a bummer too, because even after you finish the movie, Visual Effects finishes the movie and the movie goes off to delivery, they still can make changes to it. They can still move it around. Oh yeah.
You just shocked me there.
No, they can. Well, it all boils down to the cost. Everything's digital now. So films can literally be cut until the moment where they have to be uploaded and sent to their first point of distribution. That means I could be editing the next Matrix movie right now, and it delivers tomorrow. I could do that. Provided I don't have anything technical to do, I don't have any more CGI shots to add. If I just want to shuffle scenes around, I can totally do that. Yep. So
that's nice.
It's nice.
So how were you involved with the movie Homefront?
That was the one, I was, by that time, I was I was more of a, God, it's hard to say. I was kind of a visual effects editor in one capacity. I was a sequence supervisor, or more of a show supervisor on that one, which basically meant I ran the team that did the CGI for that particular show. Now, that's not to say we did all the work. Visual effects is not always done by one particular facility. Visual effects is usually, depending on the size of the show, spread across a lot of other facilities because, well, your company may specialize in one aspect of it. This company might specialize in another, this one might another, and the whole goal is to get all this work done at once so it can all be put out at the right time. So if your company handles wire removal, then I'm going to hire you to do that. If your company handles muzzle flashes, I'm going to have you do that. If your company handles age fixing, like making a person look younger than they are, I'll give that to those people. And then we might handle the simple stuff like cleanup. Our studio was largely involved with cleanup work. And what I mean by cleanup work is kind of lazy filmmaking. And that is to say, people that won't move that ladder I mentioned earlier, because they won't. It's frustrating. I was a supervisor, officially an actual supervisor from top to finish on one film called The Iceman. And I know I annoyed a lot of people because I was looking at it from the experience of having seen these mistakes made. And I'm like, well, my budget dictates I can have this much work in actual work. Let's spend our money on work. Let's not spend it on carelessness. And a case in point, I'll bring this up. If you see the movie, and you won't see it because I said something, there's a sequence in the movie. The movie takes place in New York City and Jersey and places like that. Shot it here. There was a neighborhood we shot in Shreveport, and the main character, Michael Shannon's character, Michael Kuklinski's house with Winona Ryder is here in this place, and it looks like the right period and everything. Well, we're getting ready to line up shots, and he's going to basically pull into the driveway, get out, walk inside, and he's going to do that about 4 more times in a different wardrobe because it's different times in the movie. Well, the neighbor's house, which is in view of the camera, has a satellite dish on it. This scene in the movie and all the other scenes preceding it or following it take place before satellite dishes were a thing.
Right.
So that's a problem. That's got to go. And if you're shooting a period movie, any anachronism like that doesn't belong there. It's got to go. So I brought it up and I was like, hey guys, that's got to go. How many times do you think we'll see this shot? They couldn't tell me, and basically I talked them into taking it off the house, and so they took it off the house, and it was gone for a week. The poor neighbor didn't have his satellite for a week. And then that following Saturday night, when we wrapped the exterior, the satellite people were reinstalling his dish in the dark because he needed it. So the point being, if you just open your mouth and say something, you can, prevent a lot of problems. And my goal was just to save the money, not to spend it on stupid stuff.
Well, that's very interesting. So, with all the films that you have been a part of, do you have any favorite celebrities that you have ever met?
Actually spoken, talk to. Now I could say I met celebrities, and that means I saw them in the catering line.
Right.
Like I was telling you before the show, I've got this weird thing about celebrities. There's a part of me that wants to totally geek out and run over there and with my phone and go check that out. But I also have a huge respect. I'm kind of give them their space. They know who they are, and they know you know who they are.
Right.
So it's just kind of the first celebrity I remember seeing on set was Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta's been in a lot of gangster movies. I'd known him from Goodfellas and all sorts of things. And so he rolls up on the set one day, and I was like, oh my God, that's Ray Liotta. That's crazy. But I didn't have the guts to say anything to him because he was very don't mess with me. That was written on his face. He was there for a week and a half, and he was out. He was done. But the lead of the movie, Michael Shannon, who was a really good character actor, was extremely approachable. He literally walked up on the set one night. We were shooting in the first week, and he just walked up and looked over my shoulder and was like, hey, how's it going? And my son, who works in film now, has noticed that there's kind of this weird situation where the guys on the set are open and want to talk, and the ladies are very guarded and don't want to be approached. And that ranges in age; it doesn't matter. And so he's finding out, like I found out, that there's a time and a place to be a fanboy and be all like woo, and then there's times you just let it go. I mean, Chris Evans would probably be the most famous person, and again, that was right before Avengers came out, the first one. And so everyone knew him as Captain America and everything, and the whole MCU thing had barely kind of got off the ground. So we really didn't understand the scope of what was to come and what his involvement would be, but it was still cool. Captain America's in this movie. Wow, how amazing is that? But his hair was completely shaved, he had a full beard, and he was playing a hitman. He looked nothing like the guy we know from those movies. So it was weird. It was very sublime, very strange. I didn't talk to him much, and I didn't make a point to go to him and get anything out of him until the last day. And that's usually when you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was going to be a fangirl when I met celebrities, but my first celebrity I met was actually Miley Cyrus. Well, I went to a Hannah Montana concert, but she's Miley Cyrus. Yeah. And I had the little backstage pass, and I was like, oh, I'm going to hug her, I'm going to kiss her, I'm going to do all this. And when I seen her, I was just like, oh, what's up? You're Miley. And then she was like, oh. Okay. So, yeah. So it was kind of reversed, and I was like, oh.
Yeah,
cool.
I think it depends on the person. Older actors and actresses who are just kind of been around the business a lot are very approachable. And are very hey man, it's a job. We're just here to have a good time. Isn't this fun? Isn't this cool? The younger ones tend to have a real problem. It's in their head.
Yes.
And I get it. I mean, if I were a celebrity, I'd probably be one of those people that punch photographers because I'd be like, get out of my face. I'm a person too. I need life and space. And they're treated like meat. I get it. But at the same time, you kind of signed up for it.
Right.
You're kind of in this thing. And I respect the people, and even the people that do it the way I consider they do it right. They live off the grid. Harrison Ford lives in Montana or Wyoming or whatever. No one bothers him. He just lives his life. He does his thing. But when he goes to Europe and other places, he's hounded like crazy. And then you got some people that act like such victims, but they are clearly soaking it up with a sponge. They want to be victimized because it gives them clicks and it looks good and everything. And I'm kind of like, no, it's not me. I would live off the grid and be a complete hermit. I'd come out of my shell, do my work, go back in. That's how I'd roll. But that's me.
So it looks like we have run out of time here.
No. Can we do a part two? I can
We
talk about
definitely need a
this.
part 2.
I can talk about this all day long.
We definitely need a part 2. So since that's all for today, I do want to thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to be here with us today. And thank you all for watching. See you next time on This Is BPCC.